And then the last thing that this kind gentleman helped me do, I wish I could remember his name. I thank you. If you do see this video, you're very kind and generous to me, helped me get situated there. The last thing he helped me do was to look for work there and see if they would hire me, you know. Get yourself kneaded up a little bit, trim your beard, your mustache. And so that first day, he did pay for a shower for me, and I think shaved, trimmed myself up a little bit, and went to the camp store and applied for a job. And I think it took them a few days to deliberate. I don't know if they had any openings anyway. Toward the end of the summer, probably we're getting ready to kind of close up some of the operations there, because I don't think they're even open during some of the winter months. They may be even snowbound to where they don't let visitors come up there during some of the winter months. But I went through the motions. I mean, you know, I tried. I probably didn't look the best, and they realized I'd be camping rather than staying in one of the apartments or lodges or anything nearby. So, you know, there's a lot of considerations on their part, what they wanted, what kind of person they wanted, and whether I fit their qualifications. Probably didn't fit it very well. Probably more interested in hiring young people going to college to give them some college spending money or whatever, that sort of profile, to young adults who maybe had gone through college and taken parks and recreation, conservation sort of curriculum that would fit them better to be in park rangers or that kind of thing. And I wasn't any of those, so easy to understand why they didn't particularly have an opening there. Add to it, plus the fact that probably a lot of people were trying to get jobs like that. You know, it'd be a great job to have. Summer job, just hanging out in a national park. Man, that would be just supreme. So anyway, we went through that, and the guy was really nice to kind of take care of a lot of that for me, set me up that way. But there was a real nice 3 weeks during that summer, sort of capping off the first summer I was on the road. There at Yosemite, beautiful place. You get a chance, go there and visit for a while, and hike some of the trails and go swim in the Merced River, and look at some of the glorious, beautiful sequoias. And if you're lucky, look at some of the waterfalls if you're there at the right time of the year, and hike some of the back country if you have time. I highly recommend it. Started out saying I was going to talk about Sacramento. Okay, now I'm going to talk about Sacramento. So after those 3 weeks in Yosemite, I guess it may have even started to turn a little cooler some of the nights. Probably just the first part of September though. I thought about it. I said, well, I'd still like to see Sacramento and some of the other places in California, including San Francisco. At this point, I had not gone to San Francisco. So, one way or another, I finally decided to go ahead and get out of there and started walking, hitchhiking out. And it took a long time. It was like going up. It took a long time. I think if you're on a major highway, going from one major town to another major town, there's enough traffic that you have a little bit better luck hitchhiking. and this was 81, mind you, remember, this is 1981. I'm not sure what it's like out there now. In fact, it may be a lot more scary. So there again, I'm not recommending anybody do this. I'm just telling the tale as the best I can remember that what happened to me in 1981. And maybe it'll be enough to scare some people not to do it, or at least if they do it, to direct them in a way to do things that will help keep them out of trouble. I hope, I wish that would be true. And so I'm walking and hitchhiking out of the Yosemite National Park, and I forget there's a pretty big highway once you get over to it. There's Interstate 5. I want to say there's Interstate 5 that goes north and south, which is pretty well known. Goes up the, the San Fernando Valley, and I believe that may go all the way up to Sacramento. But Yosemite's considerably further east of all of that, so you have to walk and hitchhike the more minor highways that will lead you over to Interstate 5. And one way or another, I got there, finally got to Sacramento, and some people kind enough to direct me toward the Salvation Army or the Mission or whatever the place was there. I don't remember exactly. I guess there was a rescue mission there. A lot of the big cities have them, and I think a lot of them are supported by local churches. But a lot of the big cities have Salvation Armies too, and those are big enough Salvation Armies in some cases that you can sleep at for a day or two out of the month. Most of them rotate. You get one day in out of 30. So sleep dry tonight, get fed, and then you're out for 30 days. But they do a good job. You get a shower and shave and give you a change of clothes and food. Usually they serve a breakfast and maybe a dinner, and some of them serve a lunch. And then there are a lot of little soup lines and whatnot, sandwich lines, which if you talk to the other street people, other hobos, a lot of them will tell you, oh yeah, at noon, if you go over here to this street over across town, there's a truck that pulls up on the corner over there and starts handing out day-old sandwiches, like these 7-Eleven pre-wrapped hoagies and all that stuff that's out of date. Somebody would go around and grab them all up and then hand them out to the bums. Different things like that you can usually find out from the other hobos and tramps and whatnot. And so Sacramento had several, and I just don't remember specifically which ones they were. What I do remember about Sacramento, which isn't a whole lot, terrible, my memory's so bad, but that there's two great rivers that flow into Sacramento. One is the Sacramento River, and the other, I believe, is called the American River. And they meet in Sacramento, and they flow out as the Sacramento or the American River, I forget, one or the other probably. And because the river is the main big water aquatic sporting area or whatever, one reason or another, I saw a bunch of different times, a bunch of different racing boats. They call them, what do they call those? Cigarette boats? Cigar boats? I'm not sure if it's because they're shaped like a cigar or cigarette, or whether because they often have advertisements on them, the sporting boats do. But it's those boats, like you see in the beginning of Miami Vice. It's where you got the two little guys in them, but then most of it is this humongous boat with a humongous motor, and the thing is just zooming up and down the river. And they were common. I mean, at least it seemed like at the time in Sacramento that they were going up and down the river. Where I come from, on the East Coast, Danville and Virginia and Richmond and that area, we fish in our rivers. And so you might see a couple little fishing boats, but they got the little tiny little motor that, you know, you don't want to scare the fish. If you had boats going up and down the river all day, and I think if you go down to different places, Miami is one. I think it's famous for having a lot of those kind of boats in certain waterways and stuff. But I think maybe you see them around Las Vegas or out there in the canyon lands around Las Vegas, Nevada. You hear about a lot of big boats like that. And of course, some of them around the big Great Lakes or around the ocean coast, whatnot, would have some yachts or boats like that. But here it was in Sacramento. I didn't see any fishing boats. I didn't see anybody fishing. And these two great rivers, you think, well, there'd be a lot of fishing there. And I don't know, maybe people did fish, but what I did see were a bunch of those cigar boats. Or cigarette boats. I don't know. Which is they call them? Cigarette. Speedboats. Big, hulking, almost all motor and all hull speedboats. Not seaboats. Speedboats. And that may have changed by now. They may have outlawed them. I would have, if I was in the city council and knew that people wanted it to happen, I would have passed city ordinances against those suckers. I'm sorry. You're messing up all the fishing, and none of the rest of us can have fun out there because we're afraid you're going to come and run over us or run over our boats. But it looked like great fun. I mean, I'm sure that people enjoyed it as a sport, and maybe they can coexist. Maybe fishing can happen, even though those guys are going up and down the river, and it's not a big deal. Another thing I remember about Sacramento, though, it was the home of one of the greatest gold rushes of all time. I didn't know it until I got there. Sutter's Mill is right there at Sacramento. That's probably how Sacramento got founded. Sutter, I think it was named after the guy who discovered the gold there, found some gold, created his own little gold mine, Sutter's Mill. I don't know that he got rich, but somebody probably got rich, and sparked the gold fever that's known as the California Gold Rush. Right there at Sacramento. So if you want to see some history of the U.S. and a great, interesting, nice tourist attraction, destination there at Sacramento, is the old town right there around where Sutter's Mill, I guess, was supposed to be. They have a bunch of buildings that are built like they were probably in the 1870s or 1890s or whatever, whenever the California Gold Rush happened. And I'm not sure that they're all original, but I think maybe there were some that were original restored, and some of them may have been made since then. And I think they may have a paddle boat, some sort of a big riverboat attraction, and all kinds of exhibits about the gold rush right there at Sacramento. Good thing to go visit. And then Sacramento is the capital of the state of California, so that's another reason to go there. It's interesting from a standpoint of the records and deeds and everything. That if you want to look up some of the history for the state of California, you might find unique information there at Sacramento. Again, the libraries, I would go to the public libraries a lot of the times when I get to a city because it's free entertainment. I mean, a lot of them have listening rooms. You can listen to records. Some of them, records. I guess it's all CDs now. Back then, they were LPs, you know, the big vinyl. And they have listening rooms. You put on the earphones and listen to music. And I think some of them probably, well, at least since then, if not then, had video rooms you could watch videos in too. And books, and magazines, and newspapers, and reference books. And so the library was a big deal to me when I was on the road. I would almost always check out the public library. This whole talk's been leading up to that joke. You checked out the public library? No. Wonder what the late fee is on that. And so I would always go to the public library. And then a lot of times, I think I've explained in one of the videos earlier, I would make a map of the main part of the city, a copy of the map. In other words, you just look up the reference map books that were available, find one that was for the city you're in, take it over to the copier for a dime then, I think, or maybe a nickel then, a quarter now or $1 now. I don't know how much it costs to do the copies now, but make a copy of that map. And then you go over to the reference table again and you get a phone book for that city. And you look up Salvation Army, Mission, Gospel Mission, Holy Gospel Mission, Goodwill. You look up the Social Services Building. You look up, travel agencies or travel help. Some of the churches, just all the resources that you can think of while you're sitting there in the public library, and you mark them on your map. And then when you leave there, you've got some first places to go and investigate. I mentioned social services, and I don't believe in taking advantage of a system unduly. And perhaps I abused it in some ways because I could have settled down and had a job or whatever and not been out on the road and need to get food. But a lot of towns, a lot of states do have food stamp programs, so that's another thing to check out, and or welfare programs or other kinds of travel assistance programs or whatnot. It's just something else, another resource. If you think to do it, it can be worth your time to go ahead and get $90 a month or whatever it is they give out in certain places, food stamps, and they have guidelines for that. So you do have to obey the laws, use them for what they want you to use them for, buy food. But, that can help you. You can get by if you can find the right resources, even if you have little or nothing. And we should reserve it for those people who really need it. So let's don't just go out there and try to get food stamps when we got a job, or if we're not down and out, down on our luck. But for those people who are in difficult situations, there's no reason at all that they shouldn't go ahead and take advantage of those goods and services that are made available by your local and state and federal government agencies. So that's another resource you have. And I was thinking about it while I was going through that long spiel. Another thing you can look up is day labor places. Peak power, or peak, what is that one called? Manpower, peak something, I don't know. The day labor places, sometimes you can find work that way and at least get paid for a day's work, $30 or $40 or $50, whatever it is. And sometimes from those places, when you get on a job, the guy there may like what you're doing, like your work, your attitude, and put you on part-time or whatever, but you don't have to go back to the day labor place where they're going to take out a certain percentage for having provided you with the job and work directly for somebody for a few days or a week or a month or however long you can make it last. And then there's places where you can go and stand on the corner, and a guy will come by in a truck and say, I want you, you, and you. Hop in the back. And they'll just pick you up and take you out to different kinds of jobs and stuff. And you know about those from being on the road. If you're on the road, on the street, and in certain towns, they'll tell you, people will tell you, yeah, there's a guy people go pick oranges. If you go over in that corner by 6 o'clock in the morning, he'll come by and he'll pick you up. I never did pick oranges, but they tell me that's really, really hard. There were a lot of jobs like that I never did, and I guess I was lucky because some of them were real, real hard. And if you were doing them, they'd put you in a little camp and they'd charge you for the place where you were sleeping, even though you barely had a bed to lay on and 15 other people in the same hotel room with you. And then they charge you for the food, and they charge you for your cigarettes, and they charge you for a bottle of wine or some beer or whatever you wanted at night. And by the end of the day, you may have had $10 you could save away somewhere, but a lot of those places are such rackets, it's just not worth it. It really isn't. I don't know how the people that do that work survive doing it. Apparently some survive pretty well. I don't know. They do it season to season.